Introducing On the Horizon, a podcast by Horizon Resources Cooperative, supporting farmers and ranchers across northwest North Dakota and northeast Montana. Join host Levi Hall as he engages with agronomy experts, grain traders, and community leaders, sharing insights to help you make confident, informed decisions for your operations. From market trends to practical advice, we bring you the conversations that matter.
Welcome to another episode of On the Horizon. This week, we have the wildest podcast that I have had yet. Rob Sharkey, the Shark Farmer on X. He's also on Acres TV, PBS. He had a show on RFD, now has RFD Radio. You name it, Rob Sharkey is around it in agriculture media. And Rob and I had a great conversation. We tried to keep it on the rails. It got a little wild at times, but a phenomenal opportunity. He was here speaking at the National Hard Wheat Show, and we were able to talk him into coming down to the podcast area for just a couple minutes, and we're able to steal just a little bit of his time. Gracious guy, and give some phenomenal insights, along with a lot of laughs throughout the podcast. Enjoy the show.
At Horizon Resources, we're cultivating the next generation of agricultural leaders through the Grow Internship Program. Guided real-world opportunities in work. This is your chance to gain hands-on experience in agronomy, grain marketing, and more. Work side by side with mentors, learn from industry leaders, and prepare for a rewarding career. Applications are open now. Visit horizonresources.coop to learn more and apply today.
Welcome back to another episode of On the Horizon. This week, we have one of the top influencers, egg influencers on X, Rob Sharkey, the Shark Farmer.
I mean one of.
Well, there was a whole list. They didn't rank them, did they?
Yeah, I think I was first.
We'll go with it. The top egg influencer. If not, you are now. Rob Sharkey, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you were in town here for the National Hard Spring Wheat Show, and you guys wanted to do a Sirius XM show from the Hard Wheat Show, which we did. So we packed up all of the stuff from this podcast, and then I threatened that I would not send it off to your producer unless you came on the show.
It's actually a smart move.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Whatever it takes to get clicks and likes. I mean,
everybody thinks, like the media side, it's all, business. No, you got to bribe and cutthroat and blackmail.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're catching on real quick.
Well, we're trying. I learn a lot. Jill is a great teacher here, our marketing director. So, I think that's where most of my tips come from. So
she doesn't say anything good about you, though.
She tries not to. Yeah, it's a very poor work environment. So
okay.
Yeah, no. So, Rob, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from, and what brought you here to Williston, North Dakota today?
Yep, my name is Rob Sharkey. I'm a fifth-generation corn and soybean farmer from just outside of Bradford, Illinois. We were here today in Williston speaking at the spring
National Hard Spring Wheat Show.
Yeah, we don't do many farm shows that have the word hard in them. So, I was looking forward to that. Yeah. No, it's a great group of people. It's funny. We've been really blessed to go around the country and speak in different areas. And we are actually getting down like the geographies, because different geographies and agricultures are completely different audiences. Yeah. So we're still trying to figure out North Dakota.
Well, and you and I were talking on the drive from the show over to here to where we record our podcast about land rent and the differences. Everything. Yes, we're doing the same thing in agriculture, but it is done so differently. Not just, in North Dakota alone, if we go 5 hours east of here, it's a total different ball game. Now we start talking about Illinois, and you made the joke quite a bit about stay out of corn. You probably weren't even joking.
No, I wasn't joking.
Yeah, North Dakota needs to stay out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't just talking to you.
Yeah.
Everybody else. They call them the ice states for a reason. Let us have that. That's all we got.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. So, so you guys, you grew up on a hog operation, and now you've diversified. So what led to that diversification, and what really pushed that?
It's funny. I look back, because when we first started hog farming, mistakes were made by me and on the verge of bankruptcy. So we did get very diversified. And then over the years, we got more just centered around corn and soybeans because, you start building your farm and you're making money off that. You don't have to do the $10,000 jobs that you had to do when you were young to get going. One of the things we started was a white-tailed deer outfitter, and that's what pulled our farm through those first mistakes that I made. And it's funny because now we're getting to the point where the media side, which kind of started by accident, is getting big enough to where we're in the process of handing off our outfitter to our son. So I grew up knowing I was going to farm. And then ever since I knew, like, if I had kids, that it was my job, my position to get a farm ready for them to come back. I never thought that with the outfitter. I don't know why. I just didn't. So it's funny. It's probably not funny to anybody but me. Now I'm in the mindset of, like, I'm handing over something that I wasn't ready to. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that makes me an old farmer, or I don't know.
Well, I mean, you're not in your 90s yet, so we haven't quite hit that Iowa mentality yet.
Getting closer every year.
Yeah, getting closer. Well, that's the goal, anyways. Hopefully, we keep getting closer to 90. Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was you guys started the podcast. What year was that?
I think it was 2016. Yeah.
Yeah. So there wasn't a lot of ag
during
podcasting.
Shark Week.
How fitting.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yep.
That's interesting. So you guys started in 2016. That had to be one of the first agriculture podcasts.
There was a handful. Tim Hamrick, who still has a really good podcast. One of the premier ones in agriculture. I think he was doing, Tim, Wendell Schoen from up in Ontario. We actually at one time had started kind of a collection of ag podcasts. I don't even remember what it was called. We got tired of everybody's crap, so we stopped doing it. But, there was, I could probably count on one hand how many ag podcasts were back then.
So I think that's so interesting because you look at the world of, if people want to call them influencers. And when I think of that, I think of like Instagram, right? Mm-hmm. And the people that are just taking pictures, and there's tons of filters and everything, where to me, your show and especially the podcast world, a lot of this is so unfiltered and it's very real and raw. And to bring that knowledge of agriculture through that medium in that way, I think that was really cool. So what led to that decision to go, DTN still doing the Progressive Farmer magazine. Mm-hmm. You can go on the website or on internet and you can find 100 different blogs about the price of corn, whatever. You can even go on Facebook and find these groups, but to have a podcast and say, this is where we're going to really try and corner the market, or, be creative and express ourselves through this. What led to that decision?
Well, it really, it started off, it started off very focused on Twitter or X, mm-hmm. and with people with there. And I actually remember a friend of mine saying, I've kind of looked around X. I think you've got like 100 episodes you can do. And I thought, well, I don't agree with that. And it's funny, when we really started getting big, two things happened. My wife stepped in and started managing my randomness.
She is the brains of the operation. I have met her.
I am not. Yeah, there's no argument. Yeah. And the second it's when we started pulling away from Twitter. I love Twitter. Mm-hmm. That's my safe space. That's where I grew up in social media. But, it was confined to Twitter. Mm-hmm. And most of agriculture, I'd say the vast majority of agriculture, is not on Twitter. So you're just confining yourself to that small audience. So my wife taking over and getting out of Twitter is when we really started to grow.
Rob, let's talk a little bit about the evolution from the podcast space mm-hmm. onto SiriusXM.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
It was through the Hefty brothers, in speaking with them, because at the time, and they still are, I mean, they are the pinnacle of ag media. And anybody that doesn't think that honestly doesn't know much. I mean, what they do is top-notch, phenomenal. Those guys have got it figured out. And of course, my wife was like, we need to figure out what they know. So they have done they've been very nice to us on taking us in. I don't sit here and talk to Brian and Darren every day. We talk to a lot more of their people that are in charge of stuff. And We don't officially work with them, but we work with them.
Yeah.
And honestly, if they ever asked us to do anything for them, and I think the other way around, it would be done in a heartbeat. So by going out and talking to those guys, they were the ones that helped us get on RFD. We were there with them for, I think, 2 years. And then there was some horse trading. And again, I almost hate to say the story because it feels like there was bad feelings. There wasn't. We went to RFD, and RFD handed some stuff off to the Hefties. So, yeah, like I said, we are no longer affiliated with them, but we are.
Yeah, sure. You guys still communicate quite a bit, bounce ideas off each other.
We have a show on their, the acres, and
Sure.
Like I said, we still have articles in their magazines, and we try to collaborate. And now they get Zach, the son, coming up. I mean, yeah, look out.
Yeah,
they're gonna take off again.
But yeah, what advice do you have for young producers? You've mentioned that when you started out, there were a lot of hurdles, a lot of struggles. What advice do you have for some young people?
This is my 26th crop. Yeah. And I've been on the verge of bankruptcy, and I've done, where it's been really good years. 2012 was a drought year, but man, the amount of money we made that year was, it was fantastic. The successes I've had in my life that relate to going back to the farm, but aren't necessarily involved with the farm, are successes that I made when times were bad. So when I didn't have any other choice, I looked at other options. I'm very good at being comfortable, right? If things are going good, I'm comfortable and I don't look at other options. Now, we might be going into another time in agriculture where things aren't so great. I look at that as an opportunity because, it might force my hand to look at stuff. It might force other farmers, ranchers to look at stuff that they hadn't before. Because, whether you're going to feed your family or get out of your comfort zone, you're going to figure things out. The outfitter that has really helped my family, the media side, these were not things that I was looking to do. But my hand was kind of forced by, as I said, if you're hungry, you're going to find a way to feed yourself. And that's where it was.
Diversifying operations, I think, is something that people should take a serious thought towards and look at, do we start an outfitter? Do we start, a lot of farm to table type stuff, whether it's people making goat's milk or, soap or whatever. There's opportunities out there. And I think people just need to kind of take the bull by the horns a little bit.
I remember being I was in John Deere one time, and I had a neighbor come in. And that was a time where we were doing all the businesses or whatever. And he made some smart aleck comment about, well, if you can't make it as farming, you shouldn't just be farming. And it bothered me. It hurt me. Luckily, the guy behind the counter kind of stood up. He's like, this guy's name. He's like, yeah, but you run a seed dealership. So, I mean, you're not just farming too. There's so many different ways that you can make money. I mean, there's never been a time in history like this where you can learn to do anything.
Yeah.
The people that my wife get for the shows, like first generation stuff, I'm like, how do you learn how to do this? How do you learn how to make wine or whatever? YouTube.
Right.
You can find out how to do anything online for the first time probably ever.
Yeah.
So there's no excuse to not try stuff. You don't have to invest a whole lot of money to try a small idea or see if something will go. You never know what it'll lead to. And then all of a sudden, when your farming is really hurting because of the farm economy, that money is the money that will be able to buy groceries.
Yeah, I really believe that AI is something that's going to completely transform how we live our lives. I think similar to cell phones, it'll be something that we remember life pre-AI and post-AI. And for the Illinois people in the room, I'm talking artificial intelligence. I'm not talking about
dissemination.
Yeah,
that's what. Okay, I'm glad you cleared that up.
Yeah. So
okay, I think it's overrated.
You do?
Yeah.
You don't think that there's any big things coming from AI?
Maybe the end of the world. I watched Terminator, but here's the thing: I put into AI, and then we've had one of these AI bots built for me. Write me this joke about this picture.
Right.
You can't do it.
No. I'm not saying that it's going to eliminate every job. I'm not saying, but I do think that it'll be implemented in almost every business daily.
Yeah.
So what's coming up next? What's next for
what's on the horizon?
What's on the horizon?
What's on the horizon? I don't know. I can, we think we probably need to pivot on a lot of things because of media keeps changing. The TikTok where it went off line for 12 hours.
Yeah.
A lot of people that were relying on that all of a sudden goes, oh my gosh, what do I do now? I just don't want to be in that position.
Right.
I don't know what the next thing is. Probably we've been working on doing live shows with the PBS where we interact with the audience more. I think that's probably the direction we'll go, but who knows?
Yeah.
That's what's fun about life. You just don't know. I don't think people realize the reach of a podcast. It never goes away. As long as you have it up there, anybody can put that in a search engine and hit that and find you. I think this past election maybe has changed a little bit of opinions, with Trump going on Rogan and I don't know what the other ones. It kind of showed, here it is, this different form of media that can get you a lot of attention, can get you unfiltered attention. I mean, we could basically say whatever we wanted on here, but I mean, I think back in the past, Emily was selling a segment, a very small segment for like a couple $100 on something. And we approached a company that we were talking about or that we were going to, and they said, well, we can't afford it. That's not in a budget. And we just went to a meeting and I tagged along. I don't even do business with this company. And they taken a group of farmers out to Fogo de Chao. You remember the one where they cut that? And me and this other old boy, we sat there, and between us, I think we drank 27 mojitos that night, just pounding away mojitos because they were free and getting all the meat and that. And I never did business with this company. The other guy never did business with a company. And here you couldn't get a couple $100 at them because they didn't appreciate what a podcast and what that type of advertisement, because it's not the old style print, it's not the TV, it's not the radio, it's not what they're used to. It's something different. I think finally, hopefully, companies are coming around to that.
Yeah. It's funny because just the other night, my wife threw a regional publication on my lap and was like, here, there was something on the cover that I thought you might be interested in. And I was like, this happened like 2 weeks ago. I didn't tell my wife that. It was very kind of her to throw that out to me, but it was something where I was like, man,
did it make you mad?
No, I flipped through and I looked at all the advertisers and I thought, how many people never opened this, that never even saw, or, did that advertiser know that they're on page 73? Like, how many people made it that far in?
Marketing people sometimes take the old easy button,
Yep.
And it's always done that way. But a lot of farming still looks at magazine too. So it's, I don't know. I think my point is, if I'm not making it, is that I think we are finally seeing a shift to where this alternative, whether you want to call it podcast, social media, is finally getting appreciated by some of these companies that it wasn't just a year ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Rob, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
This is it.
This is all it is.
We didn't hardly talk about anything.
Well, what else did you want to talk about?
I don't know.
We don't have a time limit. You're playing, not mine.
Are you enjoying this?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I've really learned a lot too. It's been a really, really cool opportunity. Did not expect when we started this roughly a year ago to get to meet the #1 ag influencer in the entire world.
Yeah. Well, nice.
So,
dreams do come true.
Yeah. Well, Rob, thanks for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And thank you for taking the time.
You bet.
Thank you for tuning in to On the Horizon. If our conversation today sparked your interest, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Stay connected by following @Horizon Resources Co-op on Facebook and Instagram, and explore the world of agriculture with us. We're excited to continue bringing you real conversations with Horizon Resources industry partners, member owners, and employees, discovering more about your local neighbors and community friends. Until next time, keep looking towards the horizon.
Horizon Resources. Resources, solutions for your success.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not to be used or considered as an offer or a solicitation to buy or sell commodities. Horizon Resources does not make any representation, warranty, or guarantee as to the completeness, accuracy, timeliness, or suitability of any information contained within any part of this podcast. Horizon Resources does not accept any liability for any loss or damage, including without limitation loss of profit, which may arise directly or indirectly from use or reliance on such information. Whilst the information provided has been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, Horizon Resources does not attest to its accuracy or completeness. Horizon Resources reserves the right to change any source without restriction or notice. The information herein is indicative only and is subject to change.